Welcome back to One-on-One with Mr. U. Of course, I am your host, Mr. U. In studio with us, communication consultant, executive coach, my guy, Greg Stevens is in the house. Author of Build New Bridges too. He does a lot of different stuff, man. But Greg, good to have you in the house, man. How are you?
Great. Mr. U, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real honor and a privilege.
Pleasure's mine, man. We had such a great pre-interview chat, man. I want to let our listeners and viewers hear so much from you. So hopefully we had the time to get it all in. We'll do our best with it, man. But customarily, I always have our guests come in and kind of share a little bit about their background and childhood, how they grew up, how they got from there to here. So briefly share that with us, your upbringing, man, your childhood. Share with us.
Yeah, I grew up as a Southern Baptist minister's kid. And
oh, wow.
Grew up
wow.
brimstone, real harsh. And actually very strict. My dad didn't want me to go to Baylor University when I decided to go to college. You'd think he'd want to, but he felt Baylor was too wild. So that gives you a little background about, if you ever saw the movie Footloose, think about that John Lithgow's character times between 10 and 100. So pretty extreme. My dad was the type that burned books and records as I was growing up, and
wow,
things like that. Serious. Yeah, and went out. I was on my own at 17. My dad told me a week before, 2 days before I graduated from high school. He said, "Son," he said, "I went into the service when I was 17. Your mom and I decided to leave the church. I'm going full-time evangelism next week." He said, "We're moving from here. You'll have a high school degree. Here's 5 families that said they'd put you up for the summer. You need to find a job, pay them rent, figure out what you're going to do with your life, go in the military, get a job, go to college. It's on you. Don't ever make the mistake of calling me and asking me for money. I'll never let you starve, but never ask me for money." So I had $300 in my bank account and the clothes on my back in a car, and what I could throw in my car. And that's what I went out with at 17 years old. Put myself through Baylor in 4 years, and then got out and found a couple of different jobs. Finally got a job with a pharmaceutical company and had that for like 13 years. And then ended up finding a second career later. And that's what I do now. Since 1999, I'm an executive coach, trainer. I'm also a professional mediator. I specialize in many different areas of communication, specifically those areas of how to have the most difficult conversations of your life.
Ooh, I want to get into that and some of the work that you're doing, but I want to ask you this question. Based on what you just shared with us, your recollection of your childhood and how you came up, what do you think is a present challenge for you now, today, because of how you grew up? Because a lot of times and myself included, I've been guilty of that, myself included, we want to put our childhood and everything, all the bad stuff behind us as if it doesn't exist. Yeah. But if we're honest about it, we're impacted by some things still today. So do you see a challenge you presently deal with now because of that upbringing?
I can tell you right what it is. I'm a communication coach, and I still have problems when I get under pressure and I'm hot, I'm angry, and I still react like my father does. And the other day, just give you an example, I'm out working in the really hot garage, and my wife came to me and said something, and I just cut her off. And she what I love about her, she calls me on my stuff. She said, "Wow, you're being nasty." And I went, like, mean. And I went, it caught me. I was like, wow, I'm doing just what my dad did. And I teach people to do this all the time. And here I am doing it. And it was great. I didn't lash back. I just stopped. And then when I cooled down, I walked upstairs and said, "Thanks for waking me up to that." I said, "I really don't want to do some of those things that my dad did. I really appreciate it."
No, that's your wife's a saint, by the way. But I love that. But one of the things that you mentioned, it sparked something for me, because I know a lot of our listeners and viewers are professional people. They might help people in certain genres and everything. I know myself, I do a lot of things too, but one of the things I do as a coach. And I think we all seem to struggle, especially coaches and podcasters in that ilk. We seem to struggle with being a subject matter expert, but still not having it all together. Can you speak to how you feel about that personally and what you've experienced in your life regarding that? Because it sounds like you have had issues with communicating, but you help so many folks
Yeah.
communicate.
Well, I think, and I look at it like this, and I've heard some of your podcasts, but in my weakness, he is strong. And one of the things I've learned is to put it out there. I'm a human being. I don't have all the answers. I have my answers that are given to me through getting centered and my spiritual center. And I find those. I help others not by giving them advice, but by asking questions, having them start to see that. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is someone told me one time when I was in front of a training class, they said, "Oh, you don't need to tell people you make mistakes. You're the subject matter expert." I was like, no one wants to listen to someone who's perfect, because we're not perfect. And I find that when I'm honest about my struggles, people really relate to that. And it's also how I overcome the struggles. I'm open with them. I say, this has a hold on me, and I have an ability to grow past that, but I don't if I act like I've got it handled.
Yeah. Message to all the coaches, mentors, and such out there. Yeah, transparency is going to be huge in your businesses.
Absolutely.
If you decide
Otherwise,
to not do that, forget about it. This is not going to work out for you very well.
Well, I'm going to say you can't be transparent, it's manipulation. Because when you can say what the underlying intent is around things, you can actually begin to heal them, solve them. But when you are trying to prove something, to manipulate someone to possibly hire you or something, and you're not completely honest, that's manipulation. I have just as many problems as anyone else, even though I'm teaching this and I've been doing it. So I love what I do. I love helping people, but it comes from a place of I need as much help as anyone else.
No, I love that, man. That's refreshing, man. That's why you on this show, man. You got a lot of stuff like that. I want to get it all out of you as much as I can, anyways. One thing too that I think is deep and powerful. On most of our shows, I talk a lot about faith, not so much my faith only, but just faith in general and confidence and believing in yourself. What gave you the courage to leave what I view from what I've seen from your resume is a lucrative career / experience in business worlds, in corporate worlds, corporate spaces? What gave you the courage to leave the comfort of that? Because a lot of folks that are listening are probably hoping for the next check and kind of banking on that next check showing up, that the comfort of the corporate world kind of can give us. Why did you do that? Why did you have the courage? Where did it come from to leave that and kind of venture out onto, on your own, so to speak?
Yeah, it was hard, Mr. Yu, because I had the golden handcuffs on. I had the job that everyone wanted. Pharmaceutical rep back in the 80s and 90s. I had been with them 13 years. There's a lot of things I had set up. It was hard to leave. And then I ended up, but I found I'd outgrown where I was, and I was not fulfilled. And a job that just didn't do it for me. People say, wow, you should just be happy. And a friend of mine, he said, Greg, I look at it like I do this for my family, and then I do the other stuff for myself. And so I carve out my vacation, I carve out my weekends, and you've got that. You don't even have to work as much. You've got your territory done. And he thought I was crazy. We talked this weekend, but it has been the best thing I've ever done, because life is not lived until you step out into the unknown. In the comfort of where you are, you know what's around that corner. I mean, it's the same thing. But when you have the ability to step out, it's interesting how things show up. They typically don't show up the way we want them to, or in the time frame we think they should. But one of the things I found, I believe you're always honored when you step out. It may not look like you thought it would, though.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
And I can tell you what I'm doing right now, I never thought I'd be doing. Even the part of, I started out just coaching. I never really thought I'd be training as much like I am, or on stages with thousands of people, really. And that wasn't my goal at first. It was just to help some people. And things have shown up, but you're not the same person you used to be. You grow through all that. And that's just it. You're comparing your future to who you are now. You don't see who you're about to become when you step out there.
No, I love that. I love this, man. What was the impetus for your new book, Build New Bridges, The Art of Restoring Impossible Relationships? I don't know who is tuning into us today, right now. I know some, but who's going to watch the replay later on, who's following via your platform. But I'm positive that we all have some kind of relationship challenges that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Why did you write that book? What was the purpose of it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't set out to write a book on it. I was, when I first started, I was working with man-woman relationships, the differences. And then I ran into these gentlemen who wrote a book that eventually became Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High. And so I actually asked what soon to be authors, I asked, hey, could I sell your work and train it and keep my own independent status? They had a program called an associates program. So I became one of the associates as a 1099, but I started teaching Crucial Conversations because it made such a difference for me. And as I started teaching it, I thought, I want to be the type of leader that practices what they teach.
I love that.
How can I show my participants when I'm teaching that I've done this work? And I had this crazy idea to go clean up all my past relationships. And I had a list of 36 people, and it took me nearly 2.5 years. And so on that list, I had old bosses, old direct reports, old colleagues. I had a couple old professors, some old college roommates, a ton of ex-girlfriends, 2 ex-wives. It had all of it. And that's what I tell people all the time. People say, why should we listen to you? You've been divorced twice. Well, the thing is I've cleaned all of those up. And if you want to judge, that's up to you. But what I find, one person told me one time, he goes, please don't tell people you were divorced twice at the beginning of your classes. I said, why not? He said, because he said, I've been married 40 years and I thought you had nothing to teach me. So he said, I started reading a book. And he said, about 2 hours in, I heard something that really resonated. I started listening. He said, this was the best class ever, but I missed a couple of hours because you said that. And honestly, I judged you. I said, well, I can't make that promise because I've got to bring my real self to this, but can I use your story? He said, yeah, why? Here's why. Just like you've seen, I'm going to be honest with my life. This is who I am. These are the struggles I've been through. And I even say it in my book. I talk about it in my book. I don't consider I had 2 failed marriages. I had 2 successful marriages that ended. And I have cleaned things up with them. And you wouldn't believe the stories around it. My wife cleaned up things with her ex-husband. We have an amazing family now. And when people listen to what I talk about, they're like, how do you do that? That's what I try to teach people how to do, is because I went out and did this 36 different times and then many more since then. But I've coached it. I've done the work. And that's why I put the book together, because I felt like people in Crucial Conversations, the best training class you'll ever take. But what I've also found is you have breakthroughs and aha moments, but those breakthroughs and aha moments are not sustainable until you practice over and over and over until you master it. You've got to get some level of competency, and people will say, you need to go have this conversation. Well, most of us don't know how to do it in a way that builds the relationship.
Oh, no.
We're also looking at what we did in the past. And when you get new skills, what you did in the past, you're probably not going to do it the same way.
No, absolutely not. I love that, man. So define for me, what is an impossible relationship? I'm really intrigued by this.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's impossible? Why do you think it's not impossible? Kind of explain your idea on that.
Yeah, it comes down to mindset. An impossible relationship is defined as a relationship we don't think we can be open and honest and talk and have a good outcome. And so, and it's defined by, we've had a bad experience in the past. So we've had a bad experience with that person. Both parties didn't have the skill sets they needed. One or both parties, I'm going to suggest, don't have that. It's defined by explosive emotions as well. And we just don't know how to do it because that limiting belief is in our brain because of that past experience. So we tell ourselves there's no use in trying. I want to avoid that pain at all costs, because it is crazy to go back and do it unless you have a different set of skills.
No, I love that. Love that. An impossible relationship. So that's what you're dealing with. I think many of us can agree that we have some that we think are just flat out impossible.
Yeah.
But you're definitely helping with that. And I want to make sure we kind of help you out with getting some eyes on what you're doing. So put your link up for all you guys that can see it in the comments section. Book a free call with Greg. He's able to help you out with getting the process of restoring today. So it's calendly.com/Greg-Stevens. Check him out. I'm sure he'll be able to give you some insights on some things regarding your impossible relationship. I love that. We talked also about kind of just some of the success stories that you had personally and professionally. And we talked about it off air. You said you'd be happy to kind of share some of those. I love doing that because I get a lot of experts that come on the other side of this microphone, and they have a lot to share, a lot to say. And I want people to hear what went well, what didn't go so well. Where you see opportunities and challenges, where you pivoted, and kind of just give them an idea of what it's like to work with you and kind of follow up with you and kind of see how that looks. So share some success stories if you have any you can share personally, professionally, or even both. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, let's go professional, and then I'll do a personal one in a second about where I failed. Sure. But I'll tell you a success I had with, it's actually in the book. It's the last chapter. It's the last story I share, but I love it because a woman came to me in class and she said, hey, I want to work on one conversation. We typically have them work on one conversation so they can understand how it works. And she said, it's with my ex-mother-in-law. I said, why do you want to do that? She goes, well, the last time I spoke with her was 2.5 years ago, and we were cursing at each other, and I told her she'd never see her grandkids again. And she said, I walked away and I felt terrible. And she said, my kids are now at the age they're asking where grandma is. Do we, all of that. She goes, I don't know how to repair it. So we worked through that conversation and we practiced it a little. And then typically I wait till people call me. I don't search them out. And she said she'd call me back, and she didn't call me. A couple of weeks passed, and I had her number. So I thought, I'll call her and see. And I said, hey, this is Greg. I said, I just wanted to touch base. Did you have the conversation? If you did, how did it go? She goes, well, no, I didn't. I said, well, it seemed like you're really excited. We spent all that time. Can I ask what changed? She got real quiet. I said, you can tell me anything. She said, well, my friends told me you gave me some bad advice, that I probably had good intentions, but they know the situation and nothing good could come out of it. And I told her, I said, you know what? Next time you see your good friends, give them a hug and a kiss and say thank you, because they're looking out for you. And from their perspective, they don't want you to hurt, and they don't see how this can work. But they weren't in the class that we sat in. They didn't do the practice. They don't have the skill set you now have. Question really becomes not whether they want or I want. None of that matters. What do you want? She got really quiet, and I thought she was going to say, I don't need to do it like most people. And she said, I really want to have it. I go, then let's practice again. And we practiced. She went and had it, and she wrote me this long email out about it. And she said how we prepared for it. And I told her, this is what's going to happen. And I do have an ability to do that. I kind of see what's going to happen and teach people what to do in that moment. And she said for her, she kept getting back to her best intent. She'd go, this isn't going the way I wanted it to. I didn't want to cause any emotions. Let's go back to my best intent. I want to resolve this with you. I want to do. And she said, I had to do it more than 20 times. She said, but by the end of it, there were tears, hugs, and healing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It took like 2 hours for her to get there. And then at the end of her email, she said, now I need to go throw up. Because that's just it. It is emotional. It is hard. But most people are questioning. Most people don't mind really something hard if it's worth it at the end. And what I found around this, most people will engage if they believe it to be worth it.
That is beautiful, man. Beautiful, man. I love the idea of creating and rebuilding relationships because it's just so much that I tell you what, it's the connective tissue for every single human being that's walking on planet Earth. Relationships and the damage and destruction that we often find within those sometimes. Nobody, I don't care if it's race, creed, I don't care where you come from on the socio-economical scale. Everybody deals with this same thing. So I love the kind of work that you're doing. I aspire to do some things similar to that in what I'm doing coaching wise and everything, but I love what you're doing, man. I'd love to kind of hear from you, like, in order to kind of improve the relationship building process, are there any kind of skills that you think people need to hear or and walk in and exhibit? Because, a lot of times mentor and the coach have everything behind the paywall. They won't share anything with you.
Oh, no, I'll share it all because I'm not hiding it. I want it out there. And it takes some hand holding, like we all know, to be able to get there and some work along the way. But a couple of things I'd say is the first thing we've got to own, and this is a quote I use in nearly everything I do, is everything in my life I create, promote, or allow. Let that land a second. Everything in my life, I created it, I promote it, or allow it. That means I'm totally responsible. So if my relationships don't work, I've got to own. Maybe I wasn't the best communicator. Maybe I didn't show up as my best. Not blaming the other person, but owning my part of the side of the street. Now, I'm not saying they don't have any. I'm not saying that they don't have any responsibility as well, but you have to take your own.
No,
right. I have to take mine. And that's just it. We typically walk into these blaming and pointing why the other person did what they did, and they're doing the same thing. We're looking in a mirror. But when you own your part, your side of the street, it allows a space for others to do that. And they may not do it in that minute. Many times I've seen people have the difficult conversation, but they've shown up strong. And in the end, when they walked away, their behavior was fine. It was the other person, and they let that behavior sit there. So they walk away and say, you know what? If you're ever open to having a conversation, I'd love to talk to you. And what happens is that last interaction is what goes through that person's head, and they start to see, wow, they didn't react to this. I was the one yelling. I was the one doing this. They typically come back in a short amount of time, a couple of weeks sometimes, but they come back and say, you know what? Let's talk. Great. That's what I wanted. But we typically don't show up well, and we want to blame the other person. That's why we don't get there. So we've got to own our part first.
No, I love that. I love that. That's hard. That's a hard pill. I know that.
Yes, it is.
I've seen people who are friends of mine on these social media platforms, and they have all these disputes, usually over nonsense. And then we have people like whose sports team I like and what you said about my team. It's just nonsense, and they fall out behind that kind of stuff. It's amazing, but not so great. But I love that you are dedicated to helping to restore relationships, and you've been given the skills to help people do that, because that's a huge deal. So definitely, hope people check out your work, Calendly.com/Greg-Stevens. Listen to what he's saying. He sounds like he actually knows what he's talking about. So this is actually a good thing. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who has messed up a relationship and they're not even sure they want to fix it? What do you say to that person?
Well, the question I ask is, why wouldn't you want to fix it? Because if it's bothering you, there's something there. And how do I own that? What do I do? And why would you want to? Why would you want to? Why wouldn't you want to? And what I typically find is there's some hurt you're holding on to. And people want to demand an apology. Let me ask you, is a demanded apology a real apology?
It is not.
It is not. And why would I ever demand it? So what can I do as I go through this? How could I get this back on track? How could I show up as my best? But sometimes, we've just been hurt too many times. I understand. And Mr. I need people to hear. I would do exactly what you're going to do. To say I would do something different is to say I'm less than or I'm better than. I'm neither. I don't have your experience. I don't have your heartache. I had mine. But what I did find is when I had the skills to do something different, a different reality in life and relationship can show up. But it can't do it the same way I've been doing it. So the question is, why would you want to? Well, because it lifts all the pain off your shoulders. You don't walk around complaining. You don't complain about people. All of a sudden, what would it be like if, hey, my relationships I'm responsible for, they're where they are because of how I've created them. It'd be a different
That's really good
thing
stuff, man.
rather than being done to. And so
it's really good, man.
You have to have that skill. And that's, I'm not here to try to convince someone. And here's the other thing, folks, there are boundaries. Have you lovingly set those boundaries and lovingly held people accountable to that? There is a time to break off a relationship, but it's really hard to know what that is when we show up as our worst. We don't know what it could look like. But if we show up at our best, it's easy to close that door and say, this doesn't work for me.
Well, that's profound. I like that. Let's pivot a little bit, becoming close to the end of our show. And I want to try to get a couple more questions in. One is just feel like it's just for me, but I'm positioning it for everybody else at the same time. But tell us about your podcast work, man. You got some exciting things going on and even upcoming. What can you talk about?
Well, I can talk about, you're going to be on my podcast tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. So I've got a podcast, A Shot of Inspiration, and it's inspirational stories about people I've met, their lives, their businesses, whatever they want to talk about. I ask them what they would like to talk about. I just find people's stories is inspirational. So I have that podcast, and I'm about to release a second one I've been recording for the last 2 years with A Shot of Inspiration. At the end of A Shot of Inspiration, I have people, because I found most people wanted to talk about their spirituality. My second podcast is going to be called A Spiritual Piece, like piece of the puzzle or the piece that you feel. I have both of those names, but my guests are people who've been on A Shot of Inspiration. And right after, if they want to do that podcast, I ask them 2 questions. Walk us through your spiritual journey from childhood to today. And we've had atheists on there. We've had agnostic, Buddhist, Mormon, Catholic, Baptist, everything you can imagine.
I love that.
People getting to talk about their spiritual awareness, what they've learned. And then the second question is, what is your message to the world? So people get to share what their message would be to the world around that. It's interesting because so many of my guests from A Shot of Inspiration, they really enjoy doing the spiritual piece, and we haven't even released it yet. I think I've got 80-something episodes recorded on that. Oh,
goodness. That's fantastic, man. Awesome work. I'm definitely excited about tomorrow, without question.
Good.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love having good talk with good people. So good stuff there.
Well, the good part tomorrow is I get to talk to you. I get to hear your story.
Yeah. I'm instantly uncomfortable with this, but every time I'm a guest, I get like that. And it's always a great review from the host. They always have great things to say. Like, it was awesome, it was powerful, all these phrases. I'm like, you don't know how I feel on the inside, but I'm glad it always turns out well. So that's a good thing. Yes. Before I get to our last question of the show, I'm going to throw this one in because it's kind of for me. Just thinking about it though, but I am re-engaging into the world of public speaking. I've done it before. I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I feel like I was just doing a task. I didn't realize I was actually in the public speaking realm. I'm about to engage in it to a different level, a more broader national level. And I just love for you to speak to me and maybe somebody else watching and listening who is thinking about public speaking, but they see it daunting because of the bigness of it, the perception of it, what they think the price of admission is going to be a public speaker. Encourage us on that. And then we get to our last question. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the biggest thing is in public speaking is get out of your head, because that's just it. Everyone is thinking about themselves. They're really not thinking about you. You're on there for just a moment. Entertain me or whatever it is. Here's the second thing. Don't give speeches tell stories. And so when you tell stories about your life, you're the subject matter expert. No one can challenge that. And as you do that, just share, be vulnerable. That's the hard thing, I think, for most speakers, is to truly be vulnerable. It's interesting. I'm trying to get some TEDx talks, but one of the things it's always about here about the science, but I love to open my heart up and move the audience. My goal is to have the audience touched, moved, and inspired. And I love to see tears at the end of my conversation, not a standing ovation, but tears, because they felt so much through it. And that's what I love, because that's what people are longing for, not just this thing out there, which is great entertainment. They're great talks, but I want to talk where I open up my heart and I touch, move, and inspire people. So if you're gonna be a public speaker, I encourage you, look and see if you want to do that. I think it's much more effective, and you don't have to memorize a bunch of stuff because it's your life you get to talk about.
I think it's beautiful. I try to practice on these shows like this, so
exactly.
hopefully I'm doing well. But first off, great to have you in here, brother. For those that have been watching this or just joined us kind of late, Calendly.com/Greg-Stevens. Great way to book your first call with Greg. He's clearly an expert in not only professional speaking, but also in relationships. His insights have been gold on this show today. Book a free call with him. There's no catch. He just wants to help folks. I've learned that already from him. So Calendly.com/Greg-Stevens. It's going to be in the show notes as well as in the comment section if you catch it before we go off of the air. But final question for you, man. I ask this to all of our guests. It's always a tough one. Even though they know in advance, I'm going to ask it. It's still tough for them sometimes. But I'm taking everything off of the table. Your executive coaching career, communication consultant, you're working with executives and master training, corporate trainer, all those things are off of the table. What is Greg Stevens most likely to be doing with his life, career-wise, mission or vocation-wise, if he's not doing any of those things? What's he doing?
It's interesting. As I thought about this, it came clear. I always thought I'd be a great talent agent. I know talent when I see it, and I love people who are talented. I love hanging out with musicians and people who know how to write and really get their thoughts across. Anyone who can get out there who's a real talent. I mean, Justin Timberlake. I think that guy is so talented. Matthew McConaughey. You look at these people, it's like, who found them? Well, Matthew McConaughey was found in having drinks in a bar with a guy when he was here in Austin, Texas. And I think things like that are just so amazing. I'd like to be someone that got to go out and find a great singer or find out a great actor or something like that.
Man, that sounds amazing. That's one of the best answers I heard in a while. I'd love for you, man. I hope you still desire to advocate for people, because I think you'd be really good at it. You have to decide how that looks. It may not be in the form of a talent agency, but if folks help folks, be a connector for people. I mean, I think you'd be great at that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I will say I've had a couple of people, when I hear their voice, I'm like, you need to do voiceovers. And actually, 3 of them have taken my advice, and now they're doing voiceovers full time now. So,
come on, see, look at that.
Oh yeah, because I hear it. It's like, you need to find an agent. You need to do this. Here's the steps. Go find it. Because I have, and then people who are great poets, writers of songs. I love the lyrics of songs, so I can tell pretty quick by the lyrics if someone's a really good songwriter.
Oh wow, that's fantastic, man. Greg, it's been a pleasure to have you on here, man. This was a fantastic conversation, man. Any closing thoughts for our listeners and viewers before we sign off?
Yeah, Mr. Yu, thank you again for having me. And if you've got a relationship that you think's impossible, think again. What if you had the ability to go do something because you went and learned something new, you tried something different? You got nothing else to lose, and you may have everything to gain.
Oh, man, fantastic stuff, man. Thank you so much for being here, man. This was insightful. I learned some stuff. Hopefully I can get connected and do some things too that I know that only community can make happen for us. So I'm excited about this time together with you, brother, and for all our listeners and viewers. check out gregcanley.com/Greg-Stevens. And of course, his show is A Shot of Inspiration. Please check it out. It's a fantastic listen. I hope I won't mess the show up tomorrow, but I'm excited about what's going to take place. But for you guys watching and listening, thank you again for making us part of your week. Greg and Mr. You are out. Have a great day.
Thanks.